Okay, so hi everybody. Welcome to the Modern Slavery and Governance of Global Value Chains workshop. Thank you, all of you, for coming. I'm really thrilled to see all of you here after we haven't seen each other for so long and under these challenging circumstances. So it's really, really great to see all of you. In this workshop, we'll present and discuss papers that will be collected in a book in the Cambridge University Press series, Development Trajectories and Global Value Chains. We have Anrisha Rana from the press here with us, so thank you for joining us as well. The book will be edited by Bimal Arora and Shilpi Banerjee, who are both here and that you all know. And myself, and the three of us are very, very grateful for all of you for your contribution to the book and for attending this discussion, for those of you who weren't part of the conversation so far. So I'm particularly thrilled to see all of you here because it's been a little less than 2 years since we saw each other's last in Delhi in our first event that led to the book. So then we all presented more preliminary research in a pre-COVID, what seems now like almost naive world. And it seems like today, the issues we discussed then only became more pressing. So in this book and in this workshop, we seek to provide an interdisciplinary and multifaceted analysis of the links between global value chains, governance, regulation, and vulnerability to severe forms of labor market exploitation. Particularly, the book and the workshop focuses on governance initiatives that seek to induce corporate action along the spectrum between private, voluntary, and public, at times legislative governance initiatives to end or mitigate modern slavery in the global, regional, and domestic value chains and their impact, potential, challenges, and limitations. So here today, we will, and tomorrow, we'll discuss chapters by scholars from developing, emerging economies from various disciplines for exploration of this really complex relationship between global and local patterns of production and consumption and severe forms of labor market exploitation. The paper we will hear today will provide in-depth accounts of the laws, regulation, and voluntary governance initiatives that seek to engage public policies, businesses, and a multitude of actors and institutions in addressing, with the goal of eliminating modern slavery in their global and domestic value chains. And the workshop, like the book, revolves around the three main arenas. Today, we will focus on law and regulation, and we'll only begin looking at actors, mostly at workers, NGOs. Tomorrow, we'll continue our exploration of actors by looking at unions and intermediaries, and we will then turn to the final theme of the book, which is sectors, focusing on garment, construction, and mica mining. Of course, all of this has been impacted by COVID-19. COVID had intense impact on GVCs and thereby on workers' rights, vulnerability to exploitation, and to their livelihoods. Increased poverty, marginalization, socioeconomic insecurities caused by the global health crisis are proving to be additional drivers of modern slavery, with rising rates of unemployment, disrupted supply chains, and the threat of an economic recession that is expected to generate further productivity pressures. So the spread of the pandemic and limitation it posed on the mobility of people, of goods and services revealed the deep dependence of the world on global value chains, on GVCs, and the immense vulnerabilities of countries, of private businesses, and individuals and consumers when producers could no longer produce and export their goods and individuals could no longer move across borders. While the business rationale and economic logic behind the GVC structure probably was not much impacted by the pandemic, it will most likely impact sourcing and production practices, and with it impact GVC governance and workers' rights in new ways that require close study and analysis. And we really hope to also discuss these themes today and tomorrow. In the event in Delhi in 2019, we had with us the wonderful scholar and activist Varsha Joshi, who, as you all know, passed away since. We will dedicate the book to her memory. And in the concluding remarks today, we will be joined by her daughter, Dipakshi Singh, who will talk to us a little bit about her legacy. So before we begin, some reminders. We have 40 minutes for each paper, in which we hope to have 15 minutes of presentation by authors, and I'll try to stick to that. So sorry if I'm going to be strict. 10 minutes of comments by discussants, followed by about 15 minutes of open discussion among us. And this is a collaborative project. We've all heard each other, we engage with each other. I really want to encourage all of you, even those of us who are new to the group and just joined us, to both express your thoughts during the Q&A, but also if something more complex come up that can't just be discussed like this, just write it down and share it with us, both with the authors and the editors. It would really make us help us make the book better. Before I begin, I want to thank my co-editors, Shilpi and Bimal, for their long collaboration now. I want to really thank Deb Nathan for shepherding us through this book process and always giving us wonderful advice and ideas. I want to thank Debbie Seaton, TraffLab's administrative director, who is here with us. And if you have any problems, you can just write to her in the chat. And I also want to introduce all of you to Jade, who those of you who are in the writing process, you know from the editorial process. So thank you, Jade, for being with us here. I think it's 1 a.m. for you now. So deep gratitude, and for all your help throughout the process. So I'll also say that this event, as I said earlier, is recorded with speaker view. We ask for consent of presenters, but if anyone at any stage feels uncomfortable, please let us know. Without further ado, I suggest we begin our first